Well, okay. Hi, everyone. Today is the last day of August, and I thought it was just time for an update for everyone on all the different platforms, given it's the end of the month. And yeah, I thought I would just get outside again and get a walk in. It's been a while since I've done one of these for anybody, and for myself. Sometimes I come up with some interesting things while I walk, so I'll do that for you. Go down to the lake and just stand down there for a bit. So I guess I'm going to just talk a little bit later on about some oddities of where the world is right now. I haven't kind of done a spiritual warfare video in a while, and it just feels like the time is good to do that. And there's a whole bunch of, I think there's a bunch of little things I'm going to just touch on. They're kind of in my mind. I have no paper. I have nothing to, I have no plans. These are my going out for a walk rambling. But hopefully there's something useful in the rambling. Just some updates. First of all, things are going really, really good over on the Locals channel. There's been, I guess today came out of some of the interviews that I've done recently. There's also been some really, really good interviews that have happened. So everything gets posted directly to Locals now. It's all there. And the community is really starting to grow nicely. Not only is the conversation, it's taken a few months to kind of, I think, for people to get comfortable with each other, to start discussing, but the conversation's going well, and there's actually smaller groups that are starting to be created. So people with different topics or different ideas, different subjects, they're starting to form their own groups, which is great. So every once in a while we do something with me, once in a while they do things on their own. And I think it's great that it's a place now where what a whole lot of people had asked for 6 or 8 months ago is slowly beginning to happen. So it'd be great if you come on over and join us. I understand if you don't want to, but it would be great if you're there. It's actually a good community that's starting to grow. It kind of reminds me a bit of what things were like on all the other platforms two or 3 years ago, when I had 300 or 400 subscribers, but the conversations between the people were really, really good. And that's what I'm seeing on Locals again, and I think that's great. It's great for me, and it's great for everybody. For those who are wondering, the harvest has been really, really good. It's where I live in Norway, I'm a little bit in the mountains, so the summer is kind of already ending for me. And so it's already harvest for a lot of the crop. And the crop's been really, really good this year, actually. It's been just the right mixture of rain and sun here, so that's been terrific. It's been another fantastic berry year again, in case anybody's curious. The berries have been outstanding one more year. And we're doing more with the berries this year. We're not just putting them in a freezer and having them for the year. We're drying more. We are going to make more juices and like jelly type things. We're going to, of course, we're eating a lot as we go along, and it's good to store the stuff in a few different ways than just the standard. Now let's see. I guess I have to have the sun on me a bit so you can see my face. Maybe I'll stand this way, right? So this is one of the lakes that I come to. Obviously, I don't necessarily come right here because, as you saw, the road there's no cars, but it's very rare a car comes. But this is not really the place you'd want to go. I would normally go a little bit farther around in and sit there if I'm going to just sit quietly, which I'll do if the weather stays good this week. What else can I tell you about here, just as a simplistic? Oh yeah, so on the book front, my new historical book. Which originally was just going to be a fun little break period. I was just going to take a little 2 or 3 month break away from Exit the Cave and just relax a bit, write something from my past that I kind of wanted to look into, and it just, of course, turned into an exposing the expositions almost type book, where I've really dug into the 1800s and dug into a tremendous number of lies in a lot of different areas. I think some of you will be surprisingly interested in what's in the book. That comes out my goal is to be completely finished in about 7 days, cover interior. It's all ready. I don't know how long it'll take after that to be officially available, but I'll let you know here when it's actually ready to go. But I'm in the final stages of that. Once that ends, so by the end of next week-ish, I'm going to be getting Exit the Cave 2. And I've got a lot of material right now that is just waiting to go into Exit the Cave. And I have to just take some time to go through it, see what I want to write, how I want to write it, how much I want to put into novel format, how much I want to put into like a normal presentation format, and really make sure that there's something new, because that's something I've noticed in the community. The community, in a sense, of the number of people talking about this subject, Exit the Cave, and reincarnation traps and whatnot, it's growing. It's getting much, much bigger, which is a good thing and a bad thing, right? In one sense, okay, more people are interested and they want to talk about it. On the other hand, there doesn't seem to be a lot new that's come out. I mean, I sort of keep my eyes on what's out there, and so far there hasn't been anything that I would say is overly new. So I'm hopeful that as I go through what I've been working on for the last sort of year since the last one, I want to make sure there's some new content, new ideas, and some new theories. Otherwise, why would I write the book, right? I got to feel like it's something new. And so the video today is going to be about spiritual warfare. And certainly, like anybody in Hawaii should understand that's what's in the world. That to me is like as big an event as, could be as big an event as like, what's Matt call it? The 7-Eleven event, where there's so much of the event is so obvious. It's just, there's just so many things wrong with the story that should, I would hope it would shake a few more people up. But when we talk about spiritual warfare, people seem to think that it's some sort of recent phenomenon, as if like the idea of a spiritual warfare, and I don't want to say, because it always gets presented as a good versus evil thing. That's how it's presented, which is of course a misdirection in it as well. When it comes to exiting the cave, spiritual warfare has been going on since the moment we entered the Matrix. The moment the divine spark, you, me, entered into this original AI simulation, the spiritual warfare started. And in a sense, the spiritual warfare is not between good and evil, because good and evil are actually, in the Matrix, are just two parts of the same thing. They're just ways of the Matrix to generate energy from you. I have a huge section in Exit the Cave how what we might call true good wouldn't be good anyway. It's unity, it's completeness, it's totality, and not the totality that like the religions try to. I got a wasp on me here. I'll move a bit. That religions try to sell to you, or spirituality tries to sell to you. It's not that kind of oneness. It's just the totality that contains everything. Not just the things you like. Totality contains everything. And it contains it in an equally balanced, harmonious way. One side never gets out of balance. That's oneness. This reality is a constant pendulum. Think of it like a grandfather clock. Everything will always move to one side, and then as it gets to the furthest it can get to that side, it'll start swinging back to the other side. And it doesn't matter whether it's people and their viewpoints and their opinions, or the world itself, or how things are running. The grandfather clock is the perfect analogy for this realm, for this entire matrix. It just moved from one to the other. That's the spiritual warfare that, in a sense, is going on. Is that at least the way I've come to see it now, is that the Matrix AI reality is constantly producing problems, is constantly producing mess, is constantly producing chaos in order to get people to move either to one side or the other. Some like the chaos. Some want to try to connect with the chaos more. Some think it's going to improve them. The majority tries to fix the chaos, tries to change the chaos, tries to understand where the chaos comes and fix it. But everyone's on one side. Everyone's on one side of the duality constantly, either trying to get something out of it or trying to fix it, right? That's just natural. That's how we've been brought up in this place. But that's the spiritual war. The spiritual war is going on. The spiritual war is in two segments, right? One is the reincarnation trap. The reincarnation trap is part of the spiritual warfare. That the fact that it's built in, the fact that death and life and rebirth and a constant cycle of shittiness like this, constant rebirth into the shithole, that's one side of the spiritual warfare. That's one part of the spiritual warfare that has to be fully acknowledged, that we're dealing with. And you may not notice it on a day-to-day basis. It may not be appearing, but it's there. There's a car coming by, so I'll wait. So that's part of the entire spiritual warfare package. The other part of the spiritual warfare package is this constant dragging down deeper and deeper into the quicksand of the matrix. I can't describe it any other way. The matrix itself is trying to pull the energy part of yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into the matrix, you might say, deeper into the quicksand. And we're not trying to fly above it. Again, that's the opposite thing. Well, I will ascend, I will move to the higher realms, I will perfect myself. And that's the exact playing the game of the two-sided grandfather clock. All you want to do is just get yourself to equilibrium, the balance point where the grandfather clock isn't moving. So you're not sinking into the matrix and you're not ascending. You're in the still point. You're in the betweenness point between whatever two elements, whatever two parts of duality you're dealing with, all of which are part of the spiritual warfare. So that's what's going on, and you have to recognize that the spiritual warfare on all the different levels that it happens goes in waves. So for a while it gets stronger, then the chaos slows down, then it gets stronger, then it slows down. It's just in the last few years or so, the chaos waves have been bigger and longer. So when before we might get like this, now we're getting giant curves of the chaos. And I don't doubt that that's going to ramp up again. There's enough signs. I'm not making predictions. I'm not saying this will happen exactly and this date, you've got to watch out for this. No, it's just, you can just see that things are moving again on various levels, on various parts. I still believe the simulation is ending, right? The simulation itself is coming to an end, and as it comes closer and closer to the end, it has to get more and more unstable. It has to get more and more stupid. That's just what'll happen when a simulation ends. And just look around at there's actually people in Canada who are protesting for masks. They actually want the government to. They're using their freedom to go out and have a protest so that they can ask the government to take their freedoms away and put them in masks and not allow them to congregate and have a protest. It's an example of just showing the absolute depth of craziness, and we're not at the real crazy part yet. But the craziness is a part of the spiritual warfare that we're having to go through. And as long as you try to, it doesn't matter what side you pick. Like the average, particularly, a religious person can say, we're fighting Satan. Where's all this fucking traffic coming from? There's never traffic except when I want to come and do a video. Interesting, huh? that's how they would normally describe it, right? We have to defeat Satan. We have to defeat Satan for the powers of good, and, you know, fix the dream. And okay, sounds nice, but you don't understand that what the demiurge did when it created duality is it created both sides of the potential game that you're going to play in here, and the demiurge doesn't care. The demiurge doesn't care which game you pick. The demiurge wins. As long as you're, what's that movie from War Games, right, in 1983? As long as you're picking a side, you're playing. The only winning move is not to play. The only winning move you can make is not to play, is not to choose the games that the demiurge has set up for us. That's, in a sense, that's the inner spiritual warfare, is to reject the lies of the matrix, of Plato's cave, and to put all of our focus on that which is true, that which is home, which is not here. I hate to tell you that. The true world, the true reality is not here. It's a simulation. And the simulation, but is a copy. And here's the thing, it's copied on a previous simulation. This simulation, whenever it started, say it started in 1850, I don't know, but whenever it started, it was copied on the simulation up to, the previous simulation up to 1850. And then they just copied it and made this. And I think that's what's going on right now. That's what CERN is doing. If I had to guess, somebody asked what's CERN doing, my guess is what CERN is doing is they are making an absolute perfect copy of our reality at whatever, maybe they've already done it. Maybe they've already chosen the year. Maybe they did choose 2012. Maybe they chose 2018. I don't know. Whatever year they've chosen, they are perfecting everything about that year so that when they switch on the new simulation in CERN, it'll be like that day has begun again. And I get somehow they will be, though those who get tricked, will be in a sense somehow plugged into CERN, you might say. The consciousness will be unplugged from wherever we're plugged in here, the equivalent of the CERN that's running this, and we'll be plugged into that one. C might stand for construct, energetic, resonance. I don't know. Anyway. That's what's going on. And as the simulation begins to get ready to end and move to the next one, it's going to get more and more nuts. You're going to be more and more tested to see, are you going to accept the matrix? And I don't mean the next matrix. I mean, are you going to accept this one? Are you going to accept all the lies that have been fostered on us? Or are you going to reject that, even though you don't know what's true yet, even though you don't know what home is or what outside the matrix is? You're going to choose that anyway, even though you don't fully know, and you're going to continue your work to figure it out. Right? I have a hat on, by the way. This is one of my golf hats. And I put it on because of the X on the hat. I think the X number, because you're seeing that all over the place. That, that's not an accident that Elon Musk wants that to be the new name of Twitter. This X symbol is showing up everywhere. And to me, I think it's a symbol of that will come at the end of the simulation. In a sense, it's a cross, or I can't do it with my two fingers because I'm holding on this, but it's a cross that's turned sideways. And that X symbol becomes a multiplication symbol. It's a very strange, has very strange uses other than just as a simple letter of the alphabet. It's the only alphabetic letter that also becomes a mathematical sign. And I get the sense that it's symbolic of the end of the simulation. You start seeing the X everywhere. And I've looked into a lot of the symbolism of what X might mean throughout the ancient world. I'll walk back. And so I'm wearing it because it was a reminder for myself to talk about it, and for you guys to start thinking about, notice how often you're going to see that appearing, you might say, in the mainstream, in the media, in movies, in television, whatever. That's going to come up a lot. I guess that's kind of all I really had to say today. Was just I just wanted to come up, say hi, get outside myself, get some fresh air and talk to you. And just kind of let you know that, in a sense, things are not necessarily improving. We've been kind of stable for a while. It's been kind of stable. It's been pretty good. Other than certain parts of the world, it's been not so bad. Certain parts of the world have been hammered. I would be curious that when you look into the Maya and the Hopi and various ancient cultures, be it Lakota, be it Tibet, be it Aboriginal cultures, they always talk about ages, world, and they don't mean it necessarily like the way it's meant in Hindu terminology. I mean, they actually mean a new world. One world is literally destroyed, and the next world begins. Most of them say we're in the fifth world, some in the fourth. But mostly, those are always described. They're always described as the previous world was destroyed by an element. The flood myths are the destruction that happened by water. Perhaps in the last one, maybe this mud flood idea is not so wrong, actually, because that would be a destruction by earth. I don't know what a destruction by air would be. I guess winds and hurricane. More cars coming. It's weird how the matrix plugs into what you're doing. Have you noticed that? I've walked on this road. I walked on this road earlier today. I just went for a stroll. Nothing. No cars, no people, no nothing. But now that I want to make a video on this subject, there's cars all of a sudden. I don't doubt that the matrix is constantly... Remember, we, in a sense, like we're plugged into it. We're plugged into this reality. And so reality is constantly monitoring us. That story of, God's always watching, God the demiurge, God's always watching, Santa's always watching you, you better be, that idea, naughty or nice, they're not necessarily false on this. The matrix is watching us all the time. It's recording every single action, every single thought, every single feeling, partially because it's going to in the after death state, right, rebuild. It's going to manufacture a very specific artificial reality designed to trick us one way or another into coming back here. And it's going to choose whatever gives us the most comfort or what will generate the most guilt or shame or whatever emotion it wants to get out of us. It'll build that based on having a data bank. That's all the Akashic records are. It's not something special and wonderful. It's just a giant database that the demiurge system has been keeping on us. And sometimes it uses it right in this realm, right? Had a whole thing on the Adjustment Bureau on that, but anyway. What the hell was I talking about? So it's tracking us, right? The point being is, the ages. So now I think this world is about to be this world's going to end by fire. That's going to be the way this simulation goes out. They seem to need one of the elements to be downloaded into the simulation to end it. This is probably an end by fire. And a lot of what's happening right now all over the world is, again, it's not accidental. It's not some sort of plan to take over farmland or move people into cities. It's the entire simulation telling you what's soon to come on a grand scale, I think. If you really want to understand Plato's cave, you really want to understand the matrix, you really want to understand exiting it, you have to really understand what this place is, and what it is not what you've ever thought it was. And it's not what all the religions and the spiritual traditions and everyone you kind of trusted your life, it's none of that. I don't know what it is exactly. I wish I did. I mean, I really wish I did. And I really wish there was somebody higher up the ladder that I could go and meet and say, yeah, you know what? This person is 20 steps ahead. They understand the whole matrix. They understand. I mean, this person is if I could go back and talk to a Cathar Perfect, or I could go back to an ancient Egyptian priest in the Old Kingdom, or whatever. I mean, this guy or girl's right there. They're on the same level. I'd love to talk to someone like that. But where are they? There's a whole lot of people out there who are kind of, either some like me, trying to figure this out and sharing some of our successes and our confusion. There's a lot of people out there just tricking you for their own reasons. There's lots of people who are not necessarily tricking people. They fully believe what they say, but it doesn't take long to realize that they're so far off of what this reality is that it's just, there's no point in spending time with them. So every time you find someone that you think is offering some clues, that's valuable. That's really, really valuable, but don't in any way think they got all the answers. They don't. I don't. You don't. And we have to keep working. That's another reason why I made the locals community. I made the locals community because where can people who think on this subject, who are digging into this subject, who want to understand this subject, where can people go to get together so that they can share information, discuss their challenges, discuss their pathway with someone who will understand it, that they won't have to, they won't have to bash someone's brains out to try to get them to understand what they're trying to say. They know what they're saying. They know what they're talking about of this realm, of this insanity, of the craziness that's here, of the suffering that's here, of the challenges of having to walk that way and think this way when the rest of the world and the rest of your family and the rest of your friends think there's something wrong with you for not thinking the way they do. That's what the locals community is for, right? It's for people to actually have the ability to interact with each other, find like-minded people that, like I say, can go into smaller groups and start to actually spend time specifically with maybe 3 or 4 people. There's one that was started recently. A number of people decided they're going to do their recapitulation. And they've created a group, and they've been meeting, I think, every week to discuss their process on it. They're at the list making stage yet. I don't think they're actually... I talked to them a few days ago, gave them some suggestions answered some of their questions and shared some of my information on my recapitulation. But groups like that are forming over there. So it'd be great if you come on over and be a part of what we're doing. It would be, I think it's valuable. And it feels good for me that as I share things, that people who can use it can track it down. I get this so much of, you should be putting out lots more videos on as many platforms as possible and telling people to like your video so that you can get your, the message is so important, it has to get out to the world. No, it's not. It's not. Is it an important message? Yeah. In fact, I think it's the only message. Do I need to get it out to the world? No. The majority of the world does not want to hear about exiting the cave. They do not want to hear my viewpoint of what the cave is. That is the last thing they want. The majority of this world should not bump into any of my videos or bump into Exit the Cave or anything. They just shouldn't. Falling for Truth at least is a little bit, it's on the edge that most people can probably get something out of that book, because it's like a step down off the ladder of where Exit the Cave went. But now, no. It's what I'm sharing. I want it to be sharing it with the people that really want to hear these messages, really want to try to put something in play in their own lives. And again, not just me. One of the great things guys are doing on Locals is they're also sharing others. Like, this person I've watched a little bit. Oh, this person's book I've read. Gives others a chance to check into what's going on. Remember, we're 2023. The Deagle forecast, the Deagle 2025 forecast. I just looked at it today. I looked at the Deagle projections again. That was way back in like 2017 or 18 or something. they're still up on the Wayback Machine. I have the original screenshots, but what's up on Wayback Machine is exactly the same as what was there before. It's just laid out a little bit differently, but the numbers are the same. One of the guy from Talk Junkies, I'd done an interview with him a month ago, and he was asking me about it, and that triggered my mind to think about them again. I looked at the numbers again, and normally people only look at the population numbers for 2025, right? Deagle is a military production forecaster, I guess you might say, and they're forecasting populations, and of course some countries, the forecasted population is a massive decline, particularly the United States, England, Germany. A lot of the other European countries are pretty stable, actually, or they're down 10 or 20%, but I mean it's like 60, 70, 80% population drops in some of those countries. But what's really, really interesting is to look at two other columns that are normally ignored. One is the column military expenditures. And a lot of the countries in the world, their forecast to 2025 is that the military expenditures will be relatively even. They're not going to be much change. A lot of countries have gone up, which is indicating more war. What's interesting is that countries like the United States, England, Germany, their military expenditures are they just don't exist. I think the United States they were showing like from like 600 billion to, I don't know, like 120 million or something like that as its military expenditure, or from 600 billion to 1 billion by 2025. The other number to look at, if you're going to look at if you're going to look at that document, is it's called PPP. It's something like a consumer index. It's something like what kind of money that people have available or something. And when you see Western countries, the availability in many cases is like half or more. Like if one was 40,000, then it's like 18,000. You know, those numbers. But then when you look at the BRICS countries, really interesting, because the Deagle 2025 forecast is, in a sense, giving a pretty much indication of what's happening right now. Russia, for example, is stable in population. Its military budget is 3 times what it was in 2017. I think it's 2017 that the numbers are the first set, the numbers that they're comparing to. Their whatever this PPP means is almost tripled, doubled or tripled. China, yeah, their military expenditures have gone up, but this PPP is relatively even. India is relatively even. A lot of the African countries are either down, but certainly nothing like a lot of the Western countries, what we call Western countries of Europe, are down, they're down. It's really, really interesting that the Deagle forecast for 2025 is playing itself out right now as giving it another set of almost like Nostradamus-like foresight of where the world is going in 2017 when they did this. It's looking at it now, it's a pretty staggering document, actually. It's a pretty staggering document of foresight and possibly, I'm not saying it is going to happen, possibly where things could go. Looking at those numbers, it is highly possible we could see how that would actually turn out based on the way things are right now and the way things are potentially going. Remember, 2025 is the date also that came up in They Live, in the movie They Live. So it's just telling us that I think the wobble of the simulation, the wobble of our reality is going to get really, really more and more shaken up. And all that means is, again, we don't want to be on one, and it's spiritual war. It's spiritual warfare, but we don't want to get sucked in on one side of it. We want to be centered in it. We don't want to be fearing it. We want to be balanced, calm, mentally sane, healthy, courageous, honest, and just doing what we know we have to do to finish the job we feel that is whatever's the number one job of our inner seeking. That's what we have to do. We put that as our number one priority, and we do that, and we go forward from there. Well, guys, I guess we'll see you in a month or two. I'll keep posting a few things here and there. Of course, I put things up locals about every week. Something goes up, whether all the interviews go there. I try to keep some ideas up. I try to put some posts for just community discussions, a few live streams. So it'd be great if you drop by. And otherwise, good to see everybody. Wishing everyone a good September coming up. Hope for those of you who have farms, your harvest is good. Sheep are behind me, as you can see there, and you can probably hear them. And we'll see you in a while. Thanks for visiting. Cheers.